Look deep into nature and you will understand everything better. Albert Einstein. My cousin told me years ago about a terrifying encounter he experienced while in high school at Mount Diamond. This was in the 90s. It was a tale about a group of boys who ventured into the jungle, a place both beautiful and haunting, and the dark presence they stumbled upon. This isn't just a ghost story, it's a reminder that some places demand respect and some spirits should never be disturbed. My cousin, who was in high school at the time in the early 1990s, was attending Mount Diamond High School in the central province of Papua New Guinea. At the time, it was an all-boys boarding school. Back then, the school was surrounded by ridges, hills, and endless jungle. During a midterm break, my cousin and about 15 other boys decided to stay back instead of going home for a school holiday. With the school quiet and the jungle calling, they planned a 2-day trek, part adventure, part rite of passage. So they packed their things, left the school grounds, and headed deep inland. After hours of walking, passing through gardens and villages, they reached the clearing beneath a towering rain tree. It was the perfect campsite. They set up their tarpaulin, laid out their sleeping areas, and prepared for the night. What they didn't know was that they were no longer alone. Searching for firewood, my cousin and a friend crossed paths with a local hunter. The man seemed startled to see them. He asked where they were from, and when they told him, he said something strange. Olmani stap. In Tok Pisin, this roughly means that there are others here. When they pressed him for more details, he behaved ignorant and refused to elaborate, but his parting words lingered. Be respectful, be mindful. This place is not yours. As the boys walked back to the camp, my cousin's friend, whose family was from the area, shared a story his grandfather had told him. A story about the Godeo. The Godeo is said to be a bush spirit, the restless soul of someone who died a tragic and violent traumatic death. And among the Godeo, one type is feared above all: the spirit of a young mother who died in childbirth. When a mother dies during a complicated birth, especially if the child dies with her, the spirit can become something unnatural, twisted by pain and grief. These spirits are no longer human. They're grotesque, gangly creatures with emaciated frames, wild hair, and a menacing presence. But the most terrifying detail: the stillborn fetus often remains attached to the Godeo. Some say it hangs grotesquely from between her legs as she roams the jungle, seeking vengeance or release from her next victim. The Godeo doesn't simply haunt, it attacks. When angered, it pulls limbs from the corpse of the child and hurls them at those who trespass in its domain. The stories warn that even a single touch from these cursed remains can bring instant death. That night, as the boys gathered around the bonfire, chanting and throwing wood into the flames, a faint screech echoed through the jungle. At first, only a few boys heard it, and their faces went pale. But one by one, the others fell silent, the sound cutting through their laughter. Uneasy jokes followed, something about a cat in heat, but the tension hung thick in the air. Hours later, as the fire burned low, the embers suddenly collapsed, as if something heavy had been thrown into them. The boys closest to the fire jumped up, startled, and then it came again, a screech, loud and guttural, just beyond the clearing. And then they saw it. A massive discolored foot, ashen white, almost blue, was flung directly into the fire. The flames roared as the fire exploded in sparks, and the boys screamed. Something was flying above them, swooping back and forth in the darkness. My cousin's friend shouted, "Don't let it touch you." The leader of the group stepped forward, yelling into the night, "What do you want? What have we done?" But the shrieking only grew louder. In the chaos, my cousin's friend whispered urgently to the leader, "We're in its territory. You must stop. It's a Godeo. Call him Godeo. We have to apologize." The leader hesitated before shouting, "We're sorry. Oh, okay. Sorry. We didn't know. We'll leave it first light. The shrieking stopped. The jungle fell silent. But the fear lingered, heavy and suffocating. My cousin couldn't sleep. As he lay between his friends, he glanced towards the fire. The embers glowed faintly, and beyond them in the darkness, he saw legs. At first he thought they were tree trunks, but there was no trees in the clearing. It was clear. There were no trees in the clearing. His eyes adjusted, and he realized they were massive legs, human-like, but impossibly large. One moved slightly, stepping forward before disappearing into the shadow, followed by the other. Too terrified to speak, my cousin shut his eyes, willing himself to believe it was just a dream. At dawn, the boys packed their belongings in silence. As they left the clearing, a few of them glanced back, half expecting to see something waiting for them. When they finally returned to the safety of the school, they shared their story with the others. But my cousin didn't tell anyone about the legs. Not until years later, when he told me, "Some places aren't meant to be disturbed. The jungle is alive with secrets. Some beautiful, others terrifying." My cousin's story is a reminder that respect for the unknown isn't just a courtesy. Sometimes it's the only thing standing between you and something far worse. Remember, you were warned.